TNN Motorsports. Last week at Toledo, ASA title contenders Scott Hansen and the sneaker Bob Seneker struggled with mechanical failures in their quest for the AC-Delco Challenge Series crown. Victory Lane was rocking with the celebration of a first-time winner, the third of the 96 season. Today, the high-banked Hoosier half mile at Salem will test the skills and courage of the ASA contingent. Tony Raines sits atop the point standings, but even this high-speed hero has fallen from the mountainous Salem walls. Hopefully, Tony won't stumble today. We are in the southern portion of central Indiana. Beautiful Salem Speedway. The high-banked half mile welcomes the AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour back to the racetrack. It is absolutely gorgeous out here for racing in October. Some 75 degrees. There isn't a chance of rain until you get halfway back to Ohio. Hi everybody, I'm Ralph Shaheen. Welcome to Salem. They've done a lot of work here at this racetrack and it is absolutely perfect for ASA racing. And I'm joined as always by Jim Trado. Great racetrack and a tremendous points battle as we come here to Salem.
Now Scott Hansen was on the pole 1 week ago. He ends up dropping all the way down to third in points. Tony Raines, the point leader now, takes the pole position, expands to 38 markers ahead of Gary St. Amant. Hansen in third. He and Seneker locked in a battle there. And as you mentioned before, Dave Sensa was right within the hunt.
Absolutely. Dave's still mathematically in it after a good run at Toledo last week. Here's a look at the back half of the top 10. Now, you might notice the seven-time champ Mike Eddy not in the top 10, but we'll have more on the travails of Mike Eddy, which continued here at Salem in just a little bit. So this racetrack here is going to be the turning point maybe in this championship season, but there are two drivers who are going to make up our front row here today. They're going to be working real hard to stay right where they are.
Scott Hansen has a great record here, 4 top 5 finishes. He's got 2 victories here at Salem. He loves the high banks. In qualifying, people are holding their breath. They run right along the fence, and Hansen's not afraid to do it here.
The other driver is Tony Raines, who currently holds on to the points lead. He's got 2 seconds here, so that might be just the kind of thing Tony needs, a finish just like that to hang on to that points lead as we move on to Jennerstown in the season finale at Kenley later in November. Let's go downstairs now to Dave Burns. And you know, Dave, we've gone to 12 different racetracks this year where we've absolutely smashed the track record. Salem was one of them.
Well, here's a good look at Scott Hansen's car. He beat the track record for 1, but he wasn't the only driver that did that. Scott will start on the inside of row number 1 for the 2nd week in a row, but he was not the fastest qualifier. Tony Raines was the fastest qualifier, and he took advantage of an option that is given to the pole sitter, which is to start your car on the inside of the front row or the outside. And we know that the fastest line at Salem is around the outside. Now let's talk to Tony about what he thinks about leading the points for the first time in his ASA career. We're kind of curious as to what kinds of things you've been talking to Howie Ledow and the rest of your crew about this week in the shop.
Well, we just been, hoping that the luck continues. We've been working a little extra hard on the car, staying a couple hours more, trying to make everything turn out for the best.
Okay, Tony is certainly hoping that'll be the case because there's only 3 races left in the 1996 season. Now, the first row was interesting. What about the second row? Bill Baird on the outside in the Saturn Machine Chevrolet, a great qualifying run in 4th. And on the inside, Ray Skillman in the DuPont Oldsmobile. Ray will start in there. These guys pushed some championship contenders further back in the starting grid with their great qualifying performances.
Well, that's exactly what they did, Dave. They pushed Gary St. Amant, who's number 2 in the points, and Bob Seneker, who is number 4 in the points, all the way back to the 5th row. There at Seneker, you can see he did out-qualify Gary.
Gary is running, I think, a very cautious approach to the championship. He's trying to do extremely well here. It was a very tight qualifying session, as it is every week in American Speed Association competition. But in 8 starts, you see Gary St. Amant, not the best results. So 6th place, a great run in a couple of years back in 1993. Only 4 top 10s in 8 races. It's good or bad for Gary St. Amant. Mostly, it's been mediocre.
Bob Seneker has fought his way into points contention as the season went along, has 4 wins at this high-banked half mile, but he also has most wins on the tour here in 1996, so you certainly cannot count out Bob Seneker. One other guy to keep note of, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, is this man right here, Mike Eddy. That Goodwrench Service Pontiac has really struggled all season. really struggled here this weekend.
Mike Eddy in practice yesterday afternoon had a throttle hang up. He hit the turn one wall extremely hard, pancaked the right side of his GM Goodwrench Pontiac, then he careened down to the inside guardrail. Both incidents were high impact incidents. It bent the radiator at a 90-degree angle. The front clip is completely busted apart on the 88 car. He's not able to start that car today.
Mike made a phone call back to Midland, Michigan. They trucked a new car down here, and this car that is on the grid is actually the car that Mike won with here at Salem back in 1994. So it is a proven winner on this Hoosier half mile. Let's go back downstairs to Dave Burns so we can turn the motor over in that Goodwrench Service Pontiac, Dave.
Well, guys, Beverly Thompson and her husband Owen are they're behind the resurgence of Salem Speedway here. And Beverly, first of all, a question. Is Salem Speedway here to stay?
It's here to stay. As long as that sun shines, you all come every Sunday we have a race.
All right, they're very excited about this. The community has gotten behind them. And today, Beverly's going to get us going here with the command to start engines.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Well, the motors have come to life as you take a look at Tony Raines strapped inside alongside of Scott Hansen. The 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series Championship is coming down to the last couple of rounds. We'll have it live from Salem next. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. And by your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. And this racetrack here in Salem, Indiana is just that. It is awesome. They have done a lot of work to fix this place up as far as the grandstands. They have now got the concrete wall all the way around the racetrack. The very nasty guardrail they used to line the backstretch is now gone. The high banks have not been touched, and there is possibilities in the near future of maybe repaving this racetrack. Let's take a look at the grid here for the Midwest 300. Front row made up of Tony Raines, his first ever ASA pole. Scott Hansen, the man who's trying to catch him in the point standings from third position, right alongside.
2 of 8 drivers to break the track record, including Ray Skillman in an Oldsmobile, the only Olds in the field, and Bill Baird, who has run some short track events here, qualifies an impressive 4th.
Second row, pretty interesting. Row number 3, Joe Knott and Kevin Sawinski, 2 of the new young Chargers on the tour, both of those drivers having found victory lane already this season.
Qualifying 7th in the 31-car field is Dave Sensible, coming off a second-place finish a week ago in the high banks of Toledo, and ever-improving Tony Roper out of Missouri.
Row number 5, here's the other one that has a lot of impact on the title situation. Bob Seneker, the man who sits 4th in the points, and Gary St. Amand, that wins 4, would sit 2nd, lining up alongside in positions 9 and 10.
Right behind these ASA veterans is Rick Beebe, first time at the racetrack, and Harold Fair, first-time ASA winner here in 1988.
The next row, Mike Miller, who has 2 wins on the tour, and Brad Loney, who now says Holy Toledo a lot, having won last week at Toledo, lines up alongside on the outside of row 7.
Qualifying 15th is Carl Muscat, and 2nd in rookie points, and Steve Holtzhausen, who's had some success here.
Row number 9, J.D. Summers, who's been making infrequent visits to the tour, and the good doctor out of Virginia, Yale Conley.
19th and 20th on the grid. First start for Kurt Huff, Aaron Huff's little brother, and Ted Smokestead in the Super America Pontiac.
Row number 11, Mike Eddy, the 7-time champ with that car that won here back in 1994, did not qualify, but due to points, he will start on the inside of row 11. And Tom Jones, who went upside down at Cedar Rapids, will be alongside in his Zero Hero Pontiac.
In row 12, Jack Landis in Noah Yoder's Ford, and Aaron Huff in the Eaglewood Racing 15 car this week.
Row number 13, we find Tim Sauter, who will be running full-time next year and chasing the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year award, and Dennis Lamon in the number 9 Chevy, the Gentle Giant.
Brett Bell and Mike Kofer make up the next row. Kofer sport a new sponsorship from Black & Decker VersaPack this weekend.
And the 15th row, out of Canada comes Alec Pinsino and the racing school principal Dave Anspaugh.
And in row 16 will be Brandon Spurley back in his own Ultra Custom Wheels Chevrolet. He'll start at the rear of the field.
And it looks like the 15 car of Aaron Huff is having some problems. They've had some problems keeping this car basically running all weekend.
During practice, they went through 4 MSD ignition boxes, finally figured out they rewired the whole thing. Aaron was inside the car for up to 3 hours yesterday, trying to get the ignition system working. Again, working out a deal with owner Randy Ellen here to run this car for the rest of the season. Aaron's problems, unfortunately, reoccur one day after they found not so much success during practice. Track description, Ralph, it's a high banked racetrack, 33 degrees. You're not seeing the wrong thing on the screen, folks. 33 degrees the banking, 75-foot wide turns, but they're very narrow when it comes down to the racing groove. Straightaways also banked. These cars are propelling well over 115 miles per hour at any given straightaway.
You know, this racetrack, as we said, is not only one of the most historic on the tour, but it's also one of the most difficult to get around. So we went to one of the veterans who got his first ever ASA win here. That was Harold Farron. Harold, what do you have to do to win at Salem?
Yeah, it's a tricky track. It really is. 3 and 4, once everyone gets running, it's like single file. So you have to pass. You got to set the guys up over here in 1 and 2 and hope you can get them before you hit turn 3 over there.
So that is the key to keep an eye on here today as we go racing for 300 laps around this high bank racetrack. There's the Wonderbar car of Brett Bell. Aaron Huff has climbed out of the car. Let's go to Dave Burns.
Yeah, the problem that you described, Ralph, has come back to bite them again. They have had problems with the ignition box. They have unboxed several of them brand new this weekend and cannot get them to work right. They rewired the entire car, and they still have had problems. They're going to have to take the whole seat out in order to get at it to replace it.
That'll cost them many laps, and unfortunately in the pits, that's not where you want to be here at Salem. Very, very quick speeds. Under 17 seconds was Tony Raines' qualifying effort.
And the race analysis for this one, we have 31 cars starting for the 300 lapper, and you see Tony Raines with the new track record and a good mix in the manufacturers.
Chevrolet trying to gain up from the third in the status, and the manufacturers got points. Pontiacs again outnumber the rest of the field. Fords locked in a battle with Pontiac, it seems, for the championship in the manufacturers chase.
The one Oldsmobile belongs to Ray Skillman. Ray putting the Olds, the third fastest qualifying machine here at Salem. Taking another lap or so to warm up the cars, and we should be set to go racing.
Ralph, will be interesting. It was a cool, windy afternoon yesterday. The sun has made the temperature rise up to 75 degrees. This track will get greasy. We'll follow that this afternoon here on TNN.
There's a good look at Scott Hansen. Had horrible luck in Toledo. Really needs to bounce back here at Salem if he wants a shot at his first ever ASA championship. Backed out of the top 5 drivers contesting for the title. Only one driver's ever won that championship. That's Bob Seneker. He's won it once. The Midwest 300 live on TNN from Salem is underway. Right up to the wall now as they go into turn 3. Off of 4, and Raines leads the first lap at speed.
Borrowing a term from drag racing, Raines had lane choice. He took the outside of front row starting position, and it looks like it's paying off early. He took the jump on Hansen, but Hansen's not going to wait and sit back in second.
I knew you've been watching those drag races with Nitro Sniffer. Tony Raines, the points leader, out in front. Hansen and Bill Baird right on him. And don't count out Bill Baird. We saw him come right into contention at Lancaster earlier this year on a very tricky racetrack. It seems like the more difficult the racetrack is, the better Bill Baird runs.
Finished third in that event. He also ran 2 short track specials here at Salem, so he likes the high banks, as does Ray Skillman, who's run about 6 events. They qualified excellently, and now we see Skillman drifting back just a bit. Sawinski now into 4th in the 1 car.
Look how high the line is through 3 and 4. If you have never been to this racetrack and you are a fan of short track racing, I strongly encourage you to visit this facility. It is like no other. Yes, the banking is steep like Winchester and Bristol, but the line, look at how they go right up to the wall in turns 3 and 4.
Hansen will try to make it work down to the inside, a very unorthodox way to pass, but it has been done here at Salem. You notice how narrow that groove is in turns 1 and 2. This is where they say the passing might happen, down into turn 3.
Got to get it done before you get to 3. Hansen comes up on the inside, but he was not able to let the car drift up enough to really complete the pass the way he wanted to, and it might cost him here.
Raines will take the lead lap position there. Hansen yet to lead the race, but now it looks like Bill Baird will follow Hansen down the backstretch.
So Hansen takes over the lead. Now Baird going to try to make a move. Can't get it done. Has to tuck in behind Raines. And look at Hansen starting to open up a gap now. Already going to go down a lap here as we've just completed 7 or 10 laps. Sawinski running along in 4th.
This is the first chance Kevin Sawinski has had to follow race car on the racetrack. The rookie sensation has 3 wins on the year, but each time he made it out on the practice track, the guys ahead of him would pull off. They don't want to give Sawinski any sort of advantage. He's very adept and very quickly adapting to this racetrack.
Hansen, Raines, Baird, Sawinski, Skillman, your top 5. Joey Knott, Roper, Sensiva, St. Amant, and Seneca round out the top 10. There's your battle for 7. That's Tony Roper in the black number 10. And the white 4, West Michigan Chevy Dealers Lane Automotive Machine of Dave Sensiva, who finished 2nd at Toledo. Really looked like he was going to stand a chance getting his first ever ASA win at the Ohio facility last week.
Tony Roper has an impressive 9th place finish here in 1994. Again, 1995 was a year off for ASA here at Salem Speedway. Back in the schedule this year, but Roper a 23rd in 93 and a 9th place finish in 94 in the 10 car.
Joe Knott, the Valvoline Ravy Ford, just in front of that. And they're going around the number 51 of Brandon Sperling. This is the first time Brandon has run the 51 car in some 10 races. And Brandon actually didn't even get any laps in practice. They spent so much time working on the car. The first time Brandon saw turn 1 at this racetrack was when they threw the green flag.
Did not qualify that Chevrolet, and he's learning the hard way around the Salem High Bank, staying low and watching everyone string on by.
There's a big bump right there going into turn number 3. There's some interesting theories as to how you should go through that bump going into turn 3. Some drivers say just put your right side wheels on it. Some drivers say try to straddle it. Some guys try to go to the outside. Nobody says it's easy.
Kurt Pointlier said, Tony Raines said it's bumping around so much going into turn 3, you kind of have to guess where that bump is, and it's a matter of getting in a rhythm whether you want to straddle it. He prefers going to the inside of it.
Through the center of the turns as you go through 1 and 2 seems to be the quick way through here. Coming off of turn 2 right in this area as you look at the battle for 9 between Loney and St. Amant, the car gets very loose, and then you want to go right up to the wall through 3 and 4.
Harold Fair has a problem. The Carquest Pontiac is slowing right behind Gary St. Amant and Mike Miller here. Fair slowing on the banking, holding up traffic momentarily. However, St. Amant and Seneca are clear of that problem. St. Amant now trying to close in on Brad Loney. Loney coming off the win 1 week ago said it started sinking in when he got to share the victory with the team members as they took the motorhome back to Iowa.
Whatever was wrong with Harold Fair's car, he must have fixed because he is running at full speed once again. Sliding in behind Rick Beebe just in front of Steve Holzhausen deeper in the pack. Loney trying to find a way around Dave Sensiva. Loney has an ounce and Bun Saver. Is coming back in 1997. We should see a new paint scheme on this 33, but he will have full sponsorship for the entire tour next year. I was wondering if they were going to do a first victory commemorative Bun Saver.
I don't want to talk about paint jobs when you have a sponsor as unique as Bun Saver. We had quite a lively conversation off air yesterday about what they should or should not put on the car.
Back up towards the front of the race now as you take a look. There is Scott Hansen getting ready to lap the other newly sponsored car, the 79 of Mike Kofer, the Black & Decker Versapack car, learning his way around the high banks at Salem. We're just underway here at Salem, the Midwest 300. Stay with us. We are back to the ASA race here at Cedar Rapids, I was going to say, at Salem. And apparently we have a brand new Seneca Racing fan.
Look at how Scott Hansen's working the bottom of the racetrack, Ralph. He's clipping off laps and getting time on Tony Raines. It's now bolstered to a 3-second lead for the Metro Milwaukee Auction Auto number 53 of Hansen.
Well, now there was a reason why I was thinking of Cedar Rapids, and that's because Cedar Rapids native Brad Loney, that blue and yellow 33, is just flying as well. Look at how he has moved all the way up from 14th to about 5th right now, and he's going to get 5th as he goes inside of Skillman.
Early in the race, Skillman backing off. He knows how to conserve equipment here. He finished 8th here in 1994, did the DuPont Kendall Oldsmobile driver. And we see now, we saw Brad Loney go underneath Gary St. Amant, who's had 8 race experience here. Brad's only been here once. They're a little disappointed with their qualifying effort yesterday after struggling in practice.
Good battle here. Mike Miller, the number 18, as we watch the battle from 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Mike Miller, a two-time winner on the Tour. Joe Knott leading the group there in the 48, the winner at Lancaster. Tony Roper has come close, but has not found victory lane yet. And Sensiba with a second last week at Toledo, the closest he's come to winning an ASA race.
Alec Pinson has brought his Pontiac down pit lane, changing right side tires for the Windsor, Ontario driver. He'll return to action in trim class Pontiac.
Whoa, look at Sensiba hanging the rear end out a little bit. Got it a little too hot, did David. And Miller's going to capitalize. He'll get it by the time they get to turn 3. Remember, you got to have the pass set up by the time you get to 3 to make it stick. And he got a little loose coming off in turn 4, so he lost ground in time. Sensiba will hang on to the position. Lucky break for Dave. Now the racing line is up high, but the passing line is low.
Going to have to work that all day long. The spotters are very critical here because the differences in speed later in the race. Drivers roughly, you can say they're on lead lap route, will have a certain advantage, and the guys that are a lap or more down later in the event will be pulling over trying to finish the event, which means the speeds will be greatly different between the fast guys and the guys that had a little trouble today.
And when we say setting up the pass here, it could take you 3 or 4 laps to do that. You can see Mike Miller's been taking a look on that inside of Sensiba for the last 2 laps going into turn number 1, trying to figure out exactly where he needs to turn it in coming off of turn number 4. He's trying to get a run down the hill, which when you got 33-degree banking is a pretty good run. Watch, he'll hang a hard right. Here he comes. Hard right. Well, he hung a hard right, Sheen. He go right in the wall. I'm telling you, I'm struggling here today, Trey. You're gonna have to cover
Salem,
me.
Indiana, the High Banks. It's a racetrack like none other on the American Speed Association. Mike Miller knows that. As a matter of fact, he had taken his parts off the right side of the car. He sprayed dye penetrant on them to look for any sort of cracks. He found a 1-inch crack in the right front spindle. So Mike Miller, a veteran of this series and a veteran of the High Banks here at Salem, wanted to take every precaution, make sure there was not an equipment failure come race time.
Roper for the move, and he'll take it and look at Sensiba gets aggressive. He's going to get Joey Knott as well. Now Mike Miller comes inside of Joe Knott.
Using up a lot of right side tires. They're trying to make that move because it almost chatters across the racetrack to get back up to the top side off of turn 4.
Joe Knott goes from 7th to 10th in a heartbeat. The car that Mike Miller is running with is 3 years old, and he's won 2 races with. The car that Bob Seneker is driving, and look at Miller now picking off Sensiba. The car that Bob Seneker is driving is 3 years old, and he has won 4 or 5 races this year. It is the winningest car in the Tour. What other national sanctioning body can you think of where you have seen cars that are 3 years old having won that many races? That tells you a little bit about the parity of the equipment in this Tour. Good look at the leader, Scott Hansen, lengthening his gap over Tony Raines, who runs in second. We are back live on TNN Motorsports with Scott Hansen leading after 43 laps here in Salem in the Midwest 300. So our lap 43 leader, Scott Hansen.
We run caution free, and Scott Hansen did start second today. Early race leader was Tony Raines for just a handful of laps. Hansen taking over on the 7th circuit. Again, without a caution, we thought it'd be very dangerous here because of the inexperience from some of these drivers, but everybody's running very cleanly in a single file fashion. We see Tom Jones a bit off the pace. Aaron Huff had some early problems. He's taking the 15 car back out onto the racetrack.
Now Hansen has announced that he will be leaving this car at the end of the season. After Kenley, he'll be leaving the Jerry Gunderman operations. You take a look at the interval back to Tony Raines. Hansen will be moving down south to the Charlotte area, and he's going to try to run an ASA operation out of the Charlotte area. And he has promised us he'll keep us up to date on everything as soon as he has all the final details. There have been some reports about it being NASCAR related, but Scott says his heart is with ASA right now, and that's what he wants to do. But he thinks he can strengthen himself by running out of the Charlotte area.
We were fortunate to have Scott join us in the booth last week. He finished 33rd last weekend for starting on the pole. At that point, he had the point lead. A very disappointing run. They found it was an electrical problem, not a motor-related problem on that Chevrolet. A very disheartening day. Jerry Gunderman, the car owner, thought that may be the lowest point in his racing career as a team holding on to the championship point lead going in and finishing 33rd and looking at 3 other drivers ahead of them in the point standings coming out of Toledo last weekend.
Dave Burns?
Well, Scott Hansen's crew is extremely silent right now because Scott is silent. I asked him if he was getting out ahead and if he was really pushing hard. They said he has not said a thing. Same way with Brad Loney, who you had coming up through the pack. Their crew says as well, Brad's not saying anything. He's just out there driving. A quick update on Alec Pinsino. He came in for tires. The car was extremely loose. He's back out on the track.
You can see that Tony Raines is caught up to Hansen as they get stuck in traffic. Bill Baird right there with him. We should also point out that Jerry Gunderman, who owns the 53 car, told us just moments before the start of the show that he plans on continuing the number 53 operation in ASA racing in 1997. He is currently shopping for a driver and trying to put together what he thinks will be a winning program for the coming season. So they'll put Mike Cofer down another lap. And they've got Carl Muscattin in front of them in the 8 car. Now, this could be a gap for Raines. You can see that Hansen got hung up a little bit behind Muscattin. I thought maybe Tony could capitalize on that, but not just yet. Wasn't close enough.
It was a 3-second lead for Scott Hansen as he streaked away from Tony Raines. Raines gathered him back in, due in part to some lap traffic, due in part to a faster Pontiac at this point in the race. His car running extremely well here. Raines, the first driver to get right out near the fence in practice, and it's been there since. He's been able to close the gap here with Muscattin and the Odessa Chevrolet running just ahead of those leaders, holding up Hansen just a bit.
And we are currently working lap 54. Most of the teams have said that they can easily go 60, or I should say 100 laps without any problems. And Tony Raines makes a pass on the outside. Most of the passes you will see here today will be from the bottom side. Tony was able to sneak between the wall and Hansen to retake the lead. So Tony Raines once again establishes himself as the point man here at Salem. Midwest 300 continues right after this. We are back to Salem, Indiana, and Brad Loney, who was having such a great one, having won last week at Toledo. You can see he's struggling. If you look inside the passenger window, he's having trouble getting the car in gear. He's having major transmission problems right now. He is right on the front straightaway, just about the start-finish line. There it goes. We are under yellow, just as we went to parade. And all the leaders took advantage of it and dove down pit road.
Dave Sensible along with Joe Knott, Gary St. Amant, Bob Seneca coming in. Mike Getty, who had worked his way up to 15th position, was in the pit lane, as well as Yale Conley. Ray Skillman did come down pit lane. Tony Raines did not come down the pit lane. He stayed out. And you see that looks like Bob Seneca may be heading back down into the pit area. Tom Jones, Ted Smokestad, Harold Fair also coming in the pits. Harold Fair, the hood went up on the CarQuest Pontiac. He's now back out on the racetrack.
Well, I'll show you why we are under yellow. This will be Ray Skillman sliding into your living room.
Black and white Oldsmobile. You'll be able to see it right in front of you here, coming off the 4th turn. Skillman getting sideways off the banking, a little unorthodox there, upset the car. Spinning sideways, you'll see Mike Miller streaking down to the inside there. And a lot of white smoke a la Days of Thunder off of turn 4, which is a very tricky place here at this racetrack. A lot of accidents happen off of turn 4 in general here at Salem. It can take out a lot of cars. Luckily, nobody got injured or any damage there. So you see Skillman back under full song.
So the Kendall DuPont back, number 27, the car dealer out of Indianapolis, back underway. Ray hasn't been running with us a bunch this year, but he has been running here in Salem quite a bit. Now, Bob Seneca has made his way back down pit road, and they've got the hood up on that car. Now they put it down. JR Automation, Lane Automotive, Mechanics Wear machine.
Having trouble tripping the starter there. Now we find the Bluebird off and away, but that'll cost him. He'll not only have to, he came back down pit lane for an obvious problem. The hood went up, went back down. He'll have to start at the very end of the single file restart line. 31 cars have started the race. I believe 31 remain on the racetrack.
Well, Seneca had tremendous luck about the mid 2/3 of the season as he ran hard and made up a lot of ground and a lot of points, putting himself into contention here. But now that we've gotten into the final portion of the season, he's really struggling. Maybe he's run out of luck.
Seneca's had rear end problems at the Milwaukee Mile. He had a rear end gear go bad at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds in the latter half of the season. They have all brand new equipment in the back half of that 84 car, and really the luck is going to play into the championship. Whoever stays clean and mean will be the champion. Too close to call in the top 4.
Well, the Thompson family has bought this racetrack now and is going to work on it. How many of these old ASA cars can you name out there? That's Glenn Allen Jr.
Junior Hanley.
Look at Mike Eddy in the 88.
72.
And you can see the railing, the guardrail here that used to line this racetrack. Of course, the 53 with Scott Hansen. And there you see the new wall that has been established all the way around this racetrack. And there, that is an early Christmas present for all the drivers. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, real quick, guys, there was a little bit of confusion with the pits closed, pits open sign. We saw a number of the competitors come in as the pace car picked them up. Now, they have to go a full lap before they actually come in for the pits. They're not assessing any penalties. Apparently, the flag was not up. Meanwhile, in Bob Sineker's pits, they have some sort of a mist that comes and goes. They thought maybe it was a plug wire. It's not. They can't tell what it is.
Well, now it comes back to that luck thing, maybe. You know, Jim, that sometimes, you know, luck is going your way and you can score a lot of points, as Bob did earlier this year. And maybe that luck runs out and you have something like a mechanical gremlin like that. You just can't chase it.
Tony Raines and Scott Hansen where they want to be, up front, out of any sort of possibility of trouble.
It's Brad Loney struggling to get up the speed on the backstretch. Looks like maybe he's only got high gear.
With the creeping start that he had and the cars going slower on the backstretch prior to getting to the green flag go ahead on the restart, Loney suffered there and has dropped back 15 car lengths behind the last car in line. 114 mile-per-hour average speed for the pole sitters. You know, we're going over 120, possibly 130 down the straightaways here at Salem.
Here comes Hansen like a freight train, too, trying to get up to the inside of Tony Raines. Baird still sits in third. Kofer is a lap car behind Baird, and then Sawinski running at your top 4.
In 5th is Mike Miller, running 6th after these pit stops is Tony Roper. 7th is Steve Holtzhausen, and 8th is Rick Beebe. 9th is Carl Muscat. Running 10th, Dave Sensiva. 11th through 20th are Joe Knott, Gary St. Amant at this point in the race, E.L. Conley, Mike Eddy, 32 of Ted Smokestadt, 81 Harold Fair, Bob Seneker, and Brad Loney, the final of the 18 cars on lead lap.
When Hansen has fresh tires, he is quick. You can see his tires that look like we're going away there at the end of that last green lap session.
The drivers talked to Rex and Brian Robbins about tire wear. They want a tire developed by Goodyear, which is a lot softer this year than years previous. They want a tire that will last 100 laps, last 120 laps, and they got it in early here to get it fixed.
Here goes Hansen, and we've got a new leader. Hansen and Raines having swapped the lead a couple of times now. These two fighting for their first ever championships. Both these drivers looking for their first ever ASA crowns. Tony Raines getting his first ASA pole here this weekend.
Both drivers based out of the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and all the Indiana fans want me to tell everyone listening and watching that Tony Raines is an Indiana native, now running out of Milwaukee.
He used to go to church at what is now the home office of ASA up in Anderson, Indiana.
Grew up in Pendleton, spent some time in LaPorte, Indiana, before heading over to Ray Dillon's shop in North Liberty, Indiana, and then coming to ASA in 1991, full-time with Ernie Rosselli.
Not only that, but his wife Sue does a great job scoring for us up here today.
Hansen able to build a lead again. These leaders trying to pull away from the rest of the field.
We'll be back with more racing with the ASA Tour live on TNN from Salem right after this. Problems continue for the 7-time AC-Delco Challenge Series champion Mike Eddy. The black 88. Watch the smoke coming off the right side as he goes through the corners. Now he's moved down on the racetrack. He was running higher and the car was smoking a bunch. It looked like there it is right there. As he gets up into the bumps, looks like something is rubbing in there, maybe a tire. This car, remember, was the 1994 Salem winner. It was set up for Jennerstown, which is a much flatter racetrack, so maybe they didn't dial it up just right, Jim.
If you just joined us, Mike Eddy crashed his primary car yesterday in practice. His jackman Dave Myers was just about out the door from Michigan. Got a phone call. Mike said, "I need a race car down here. Bring it with you." Instead of just driving down in the van, bring the hauler. We see now Mike Eddy hauling down pit lane. This car was set up for Jennerstown. This motor was a spare they brought along. They had to put back in this race car, the backup, last evening about 10:30.
So after a long night of working on the race car, the crew will work on it some more here as they come to a stop in front of Howard Thomas. They're going to change left side tires. See if they make any chassis adjustments of any kind if they can.
When you see spiffs or poofs of air and smoke like that, Ralph, you know something's dragging. It looks like, obviously, tire smoke's the first thing. We see sparks in the evening races here in ASA when the cars are bottoming out on the racetrack. Something is hitting on the left rear. Might need to make a spring adjustment or put a rubber in there to get it up nice and high.
That is Bob's sense, but Dave's sense of his dad leaning in, talking to Mike, and that is Howard Thomas now looking at that left rear tire. They're trying to decide what they're going to do as far as where the car is bottoming out.
In the early 80s, Bob Sensiva finished 3rd and 2nd. His son Dave wants to follow it up with a win here today. There's Bob looking now underneath the left rear.
All right, so they're talking things over with Mike, trying to figure out what they're going to do to that car. Brad Loney's problems continue as well, Dave Burns.
Well, the problem is he broke a shifter. Now, here's a transmission, an extra one for Tony Roper. The shifter goes in right here, and he snapped it off in here somewhere. They're going to have to re-bolt it right in this area here. So, for now, if they cannot get it fixed, they're going to have to bring him into the pits and push him back out because they can only put it in one gear, and obviously when he's racing, they have it stuck in high gear.
And if you're following Winston Cup, Kenny Schrader had that problem. He put a vice grip in there and shifted on a road course for many laps, I believe, out at Sears Point. So they might have to revert to other means to shift that car on pit stops.
You can see once he gets up to speed, though, Loney is still a terror out there. He's running pretty strong, trying to get around J.D. Summers right now. So we go back up front with the leader, Scott Hansen.
Hansen coming up on Kurt Huff. Again, Aaron Huff's brother looking for a run next year in ASA, the new Palestine, Indiana driver. Driving the familiar number 86 out of the Huff Racing Stables. About to go a lap down again, Hansen. The Metro Milwaukee Auto Auction Chevrolet really setting the pace and setting the standard early on here.
Now, when Hansen has fresh racetrack in front of him, there is no touching this 53 today.
Tony Raines, the pole sitter, is the only other driver able to stay with him. They've swapped the lead amongst those two drivers on 3 occasions already.
That's 4th, 5th, and 6th. Bill Baird, Kevin Sawinski, and Tony Roper. Baird in the black with the orange 26. Sawinski, a 3-time winner on the tour, and the Brown and Sharp #1 out of Lefebvre Racing Shops. Tony Roper, the black with the yellow number 10. Tony Roper having his best season ever in ASA competition. And now Steve Holzhausen, another black car, the number 5, who's been playing the spoiler this season, the Meyer Red Baron piece of number 5, having found victory lane already, running in 7th, closing up the challenge.
And he finished 5th here in 1994, one of 2 starts for Holzhausen in that black 5, last year's championship running effort, with Brian Reffer behind the wheel of this number 5 with car owner Don Finetti. And running up on Tony Roper. Roper has run I-70 Speedway many times. He really came to ASA as a true rookie in 1992 and has really put together a solid effort with the John Child's own team. And I know those guys are sharing the bills, but they're certainly doing a great job the second half of the season in that number 10 car.
Mike Kenny continues to sit on pit road. What's the story, Dave?
Well, they had a Panhard bar shift on the rear end of this car. And as you know, the Panhard bar holds that rear end on a center line. So that smoking that you saw was when it got off center and started rubbing the tire on the outside fender.
So it looks like maybe they'll take some more time in trying to get that fixed. See if they can't get Mike out there to get some more points. The worst he's ever finished in the ASA's national championship was 11th. He might finish worse than that this year.
Somewhat of a prophet. Brian Robbins this morning told the drivers, you will have things break here and go bad that won't go bad at any other racetrack because of the extreme pressures put on due to the high banks. 33 degrees the banking. You see they climb near the wall. I talked to Representative Penske Shocks. They were working on trying to keep the right side, the load off the right rear. The car rolls all the way over on the right side of the car. They want to keep it somewhat level and even in these high banks. Very difficult task to keep even.
Now take a look at this new camera angle the T&N boys have stuffed into the wall here at Salem. Right there, that is in the wall at turn 4. Great camera angle to give you a good idea of how high up the banking these drivers get. Some of the drivers, like Tony Raines, will get right up there where they can actually clean the lens as they go by.
Bill Baird and Kevin Sawinski getting familiar with this racetrack. Never been here before. Look how high these guys are getting. Right up at the wall is the 23 of Rick Beebe. His teammate Mike Garvey gave him some tips on this racetrack. Garvey very successful here. Had other commitments, and Beebe behind the wheel of the St. Louis skier, number 23 this weekend.
They get within an inch or two of the wall in the middle of turn 3, and then they start dropping down as they get closer to our camera over in turn 4.
There's Beebe in his first ever start here. He celebrated his 36th birthday yesterday. He's pretty excited about that, but He said, yeah, I can add a few more years just by running the high banks here at Salem.
Rick Beebe has now confirmed as well that he will be behind the wheel of this car all of 1997. Mike Garvey had been doing some driving, sharing the duties of this car, but will not be with the team full-time next year. It looks like Jack Landis in the Noah Yoder Maisto 07 having a pretty good run.
He's down a lap, running just off the pace in, I believe, 22nd position in the 07. Lost a lap early on. Again, a rookie coming in here, finally learning the racing line and working past the lead lap cars, but he lost a lap early.
And you can see the gap back to the next group. In that group, Scott, Seneker, Loney, Tim Sauter in the 55, and you see Aaron Huff back out on the racetrack in the 15.
Carl Scott doing a good job this season. Again, qualifying outside pole in Minnesota. Another top 10 qualifying effort this afternoon. Actually qualified 15th. Had a very good time and did not hold throughout qualifying yesterday afternoon.
Third of the laps completed here in the Midwest 300. Loney now back to the inside, trying to get around Seneker. Turn 2 coming off of there, right where they just went through. Very loose with the race car. Car tends to want to dance around a bunch coming off there. You have to be hard into the throttle, but you have to be light with the steering wheel. You get yourself in big trouble.
Scott Hansen is your race leader here, running through heavy traffic. Now he puts a lap on the 15 of Brandon Sperling, who's down a number, the 15 of Aaron Huff. Huff taking over that ride this week. Dennis Berry had the seat a week ago. But you see how quick Hansen is to get through traffic and get back up to that racing line. Very much a single file run through turns 1 and 2.
Well, Scott Hansen need a very solid run to keep himself in the thick of this points chase. Maybe looking to win his first ever ASA crown. Stay with us. 3 races left to go on the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour, and these fans enjoying it here at Salem, Indiana, on a beautiful, sunny Sunday afternoon in South Central Indiana. Just outside of Louisville is Brad Loney getting loose from the backside.
Bob Seneker also in danger of going a lap down to the leader here.
Loney about to go down a lap, and Seneker about to do the same as well, as Hansen has caught both of them. Tom Jones about to go down another lap, and Gary St. Amant about to go down a lap as well. He's just in front of Seneker.
And St. Amant's running, he was running the 11th position. Now he's drifted back to 14th. Carl Muscatton had some problems. He came down pit lane and changed right sides. He's now off lead lap, so we're looking at a dozen cars already fighting it out of lead lap due to the hectic pace set by Scott Hansen, the race leader.
Not only the hectic pace, but this is a racetrack that if you have a problem with the car, if it's not handling just right, it is very difficult to navigate around this racetrack to negotiate these corners. Here's a look at the race summary. We've got one more car headed down pit road. That is Rick Beebe in the 23, having some problems.
One quick caution for a spin on the front straightaway has halted this only momentarily. I think we're on a record clip here, as Hansen leading the field, now getting by Tim Sauter in the Racing Adventures 55. Sauter already a lap down, make it 2. He's now running in 19th position, so it's unbelievable how fast these guys are going. They're talking about repaving the racetrack, Ralph, and I would think for safety's sake, it might be better off running with the bumps they have.
This place is an absolute rocket if you can get your car dialed in. Rocket ride is probably a better way to say it.
Speaking of dialing in, yesterday was a 4-hour practice session, a luxury in ASA, where you look at a 2-hour practice session, maybe a total of 3 hours on any given weekend. Scott Hansen made 4 shock changes, 3 spring changes yesterday. This morning, they went back to the setup they came here with, hoping it would work, and apparently it's paying off.
Seneker gets around St. Amant, trying to distance himself from Hansen.
Boy, Loney knows how important it is to stay on lead lap in any American Speed Association race, and wow, is it a close call for the leader there.
And look at this battle for 4th going on here with Baird, Sawinski, Roper, and Sensiba. Good nose to tail fighting. Holzhausen bringing up the backside of this group, and Joey Nunn in there as well. Sawinski to the bottom side. He's going to get him, and Roper's going to come with him. Sensiba going to try it. And maybe Holzhausen as well. Can't get him. Remember, you got to get the pass completed by the time you get to turn number 3. Holzhausen could not complete it. They'll have to go back and start working on Baird. Meanwhile, the 3 in front of them now will try to pull away from Baird. You can see a car length, maybe a car length and a half or more, starting to open up between Baird and Sensiba.
Keep in mind the inexperience of Kevin Sawinski on this racetrack. He made it away around Bill Baird. Steve Holzhausen now trying to do the same on the Saturn Machine Chevrolet. Holzhausen in that black 5 with Joe Knott right behind. Knott is on lead lap.
And that time he completes the pass by the time he gets to turn 3. So Holzhausen moves up another slot. Kevin told me the biggest part about dialing in this racetrack is dialing the driver in. Not so much the car, but convincing yourself that the racing line is so high. The normal tendency for a driver is to turn it in and run it down to the bottom, let it drift up, and get back down to the bottom by the time you get to the next turn. Here, like right there in 3 and 4, you go up to the wall and try to stay there.
Scott Hansen getting around Brad Loney, and we see now Sawinski leading this 3-car charge. I think the most hated words that any competitor hears out of Sawinski's mouth is when Kevin comes in and says, "Man, I hate this racetrack." He did it at IRP. I think now he has a new worst favorite, and he's running extremely strong. He finished second at IRP, so I don't think the day is anything but starting for Kevin Sawinski and his charge to the front.
Closing in on the halfway point, and Sawinski, Roper, and Sensiba, the top 4, 5, and 6 positions. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody can catch Hansen here today. They're going to have to work pretty hard, and Roper doing a tremendous job. The other place Roper got a lot of laps in is I-44 Speedway in Missouri, another high-banked racetrack. But I don't believe that place had the wall the way this one does.
They run many short track specials there, and I think any experience in any high banks prepares you for this racetrack, but in no way compares to any other racetrack.
You can see how loose he gets coming off in turn number 2 as Roper got a little loose. He was trying to make a run, and Sawinski couldn't do it. And then drop back and start planning his next attack.
Tony Roper last year at 8 DNFs earned him the Hard Luck Award. In the last 4 races, he's finished no worse than 11th and sits solidly at 10th in points. Not bad for a 5th-year driver.
Now Sensiba making a charge on Roper. And the West Michigan Chevy dealers number 4 picks up another spot. He'll move up into 5th now. This is one young driver who is way, and I do mean way, overdue for a win.
Sensiba, as I mentioned, wants to win here. His dad had a 3rd and a 2nd place showing in AC-Delco Challenge Series competition when he was still driving. Sensiba, in 1994, was running for Rookie of the Year, won that Pat Shaw Memorial Crown. He got 3 laps of practice that day before the race. His first racing laps are on the racetrack. During the event, 300 laps later, he finishes up 4th.
David not done yet. He's trying to go after Sawinski this time after we come off in turn 2. He'll get Sawinski, and he'll also go past Brett Bell, who's struggling once again in the Wonderbar car.
Brett Bell spent some time on pit lane. He's at least 3 laps down to this lead bunch as they string by into turn number 1. Notice the groove is lower here. The banking is a little more forgiving in 1 and 2. You've got to get to the top in 3 and 4. Here at Salem, again, a little bigger than a half mile, 33 degrees the banking, putting all that pressure on the right sides. We'll see if they can keep it together.
There is our leader, Gary St. Amant, about to go a lap down as Scott Hansen closes in on the backside of the Wins 4. The pace here at Salem on the high banks here in South Central Indiana is absolutely blistering as Scott Hansen continues to lead. Here is a battle now between Sensiba and Tony Raines, who has slipped back a spot. So Raines now slides back to 3rd. Oh, and we got a big pile up over in turn number 2. 2, 4, 6 cars involved. Alec Pincino, Aaron Huff, Mike Coper, Brad Loney, Ray Skillman, and Gary St. Amant. There's a look at Aaron Huff, who collected Alec Pincino. That's a little more towards the middle of turns 1 and 2. That was a secondary incident. Looked like one of them got on the finders after they saw the bigger pileup, which is just to the left of this.
Race leader Scott Hansen also may have some damage as they sort it out. Hansen's leading, Mike Miller running 2nd. Dave Sensiba just got into 3rd place and was moving up. Hansen had just reported in from reporter Dave Burns. He said they love the way the tires are wearing.
Maybe a right front fender missing on that car. We'll wait till he comes back around to see if we can get another look. There's Ray Skillman, and there's the right front fender of Hansen's car. It is damaged.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see now what that does to the suspension on that car and how it's going to affect the handling. And what a shame. I mean, he was just flying. Now, if it's just cosmetic.
No, it's not. Look at the right front wheel. It looks a little towed out to me where it's pointing towards the wall, Ralph. Ever so slightly, looks like it's cocked in a little bit. They run a lot of camber here. That wheel looks like it's been more than just brushed.
Well, you can be sure they'll be bringing Scott in to take a look at it. Let's take a look at the replay and see if we can figure out what happened here. Just in front of him.
Skillman starts to smoke in that Oldsmobile. Bill Baird right behind him in that orange and black car. Skillman sideways out of camera view here, and there goes St. Amant. Here comes leader Scott Hansen.
Oh, he gets hit by St. Amant. Conley did a great job up in the wall and not hitting Baird from behind. And watching, you see Mike Kofer just slide into the back of Skillman. The Black & Decker Versapack car, its debut, having nowhere to go.
And behind and now we see Brad Loney rolling in. He had transmission problems. Behind this was the spin with the 15 of Huff and Alec Pinsino. Already around in turn number 2 goes Ray Skillman. St. Amant does what he can to get out of the way. Beebe, what a great job threading there, but you see Kofer hard on the brakes. It was that white smoke there. Now we find an afterthought, an aftershock, as it were.
Scott Hansen is down pit road. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, Scott Hansen's getting a lot of things done on this car. Fuel going in, right side tires going in, and they're doing some duct taping around the right front where Scott sustained damage. Now, he had not radioed anything into the crew, and he's going to get out of here just barely, beaten by a couple of other cars. He had not radioed anything in the way of suspension problems, so they just, looks like they just changed tires, and now he's going to see how it feels once he's back out there.
Well, Hansen will probably come back in to get more work done on that body work. I would think they probably would bring it in and try to pull some more of that body work away from the right front. We'll have to wait and see. The points chase shaking up with the ASA Tour live on TNN from Salem. We are back to the Midwest 300, and you are looking at Gary St. Amant, who sits second in the point standings right now, who's led the points quite a bit this year, having problems from that incident earlier. Our scissor lifts are a big part of bringing you great coverage, and our scissor lifts for the production of the Midwest 300 have been provided by Equipment Supply Company. Call 1-800-722-2829 when you need a lift.
And you see a cameraman and a spotter. The spotter keeps track of where on the racetrack the camera's not pointed. Is very important on the television broadcast, not only for the race teams, but the broadcast as well, trying to keep a track on everything that goes on here on this racetrack. And as we just found out, it happens in a hurry. Loney's still in his race car with the front end severely damaged there. He locked up the binders, as did Mike Kofer with nowhere to go. And might have been deja vu for Mike Kofer. This time he kept it on all fours, but unfortunately for the former NFL place kicker, not a good debut for Black & Decker Versapack.
And heavy damage to St. Amant's car. Aaron Huff and Alec Pinsino both climbed out of the car, as did Ray Skillman, as they continue to work on Gary's car. Kofer and Loney still sitting inside their cars. They're okay. They're just waiting for an opportunity to get back to the pit area from what we've been told. There goes Aaron Huff's car.
Yellow flag laps do count, so Loney waiting for assistance there will go down many laps in that Bun Sabre Pontiac.
Let's take one more look at this.
Keep an eye on Scott Hansen, the race leader, about to lap Gary St. Amant. St. Amant avoiding that, but not for real long here, avoiding what's in front of him. We see the racetrack literally blocked by Skillman's car. St. Amant pitches it left with the high side block. Look how long Hansen drags St. Amant along, and boom, the impact right there. Knocks the right front fender off of Hansen's car, providing not only problems for St. Amant, but as we saw at Lancaster Speedway back in early August, race leader Kevin Swinski had just a nudge like that in a caution. Cost him the race. He finished 20th after the right front A-frame gave way.
Remember, out of all of that, Tony Raines came through unscathed. There you see Alec Pinsino, and let's check in with Dave Burns, who was with Gary St. Amant.
Well, we're going to get Gary's perspective. Gary, what did it look like from your side?
Well, it looked like somebody got into Skillman there, and, you know, after they spun, there wasn't any place to go, and, you know, that's a shame for the Winsport Thunderbird. You know, we come to a place like this, and, you know, it's tough out there. You know, the racetrack's pretty rough, and, you know, it's a shame, you know, running for the points and everything. Tony and Scott's having a good day, and here we are sitting in the pits. But we'll get them at Jennerstown.
All right, they're getting Gary strapped in. He's tightening up his belts. They've got tires on all 4 corners. They don't have any front body work on the car, but other than that, Gary's going to try to get out there and make a few more laps.
Well, the one thing to think about is that we have not even reached the halfway point yet. As wild and wicked as this racetrack is, you never know what could happen. But for now, Tony Raines in an unmarked race car leads them at Salem. We are back to our live coverage of the Midwest 300 here from Salem. But don't forget, coming up next after the completion of this ASA race, good buddy Steve Evans will be bringing you, yeah, he's so good I can't even remember his last name. Steve Evans will be bringing you NHRA Today. And right after that, Realtree Outdoors will be following NHRA Today. All that coming up next here on TNN after the completion of this AC-Delco Challenge Series race from Salem. There is a flat right front tire on Ray Skillman's Oldsmobile.
His car the last to be towed to the pit area. A total of 9, I believe 8 cars involved there, including Scott Hansen and Gary St. Amant. Again, locked in that point battle. St. Amant about to go a lap down to Hansen. Hansen was leading the race. They said, if we're out front, we can at least try to avoid the problems. But we saw 6 cars running single file with, again, Skillman in the 27 car and contact triggering this second caution. Now we see
St. Amant rolling around again, missing all the front body work.
You can tell how frustrated Gary St. Amant was sitting there trying to compose himself, knowing how disappointed it is and how close he's gotten to running for the championship. He's not out yet. But,
no, not by a long shot. And the next race at Jennerstown, a lot of drivers obviously have competed there before over the years and know that place real well. And there will be some test sessions at Kenley, which nobody has been to before we actually go racing there. And look at Loney. Difficult finding your pit stall when you can't see where you're going.
He's pretty short, though. I think he'll be able to see under the hood once it's flipped back there. But he had some front end damage, waited his turn, and unfortunately all the hood pins got it, and they didn't realize that as he came in the pits a little bit ago.
Let's check in with Dave Burns, who's in Mike Miller's pit.
Well, I'm standing by with Carl Hyland, and Carl, you guys had a slow pit stop, but I understand that wasn't a bad thing this time, was it?
No, we kind of flip-flopped left side tires. It was one of those things we thought that giving up track position would do a little bit better and getting a little extra rubber on that left rear. So we're kind of set for the long run here. Hopefully it'll go along green again like it just did for the AFC 1000 Car Cop Pontiac. We're in good shape.
Well, guys, remember the last time Carl pulled his famous flip-flop, Mike Miller won the race.
Minnesota State Fair, only 2 tires able to be changed under any caution here in AC-Delco Challenge Series competition. Mike Miller electing to change the right sides along with everybody else. He came back in the pits and swapped left side tires. He didn't change them. He swapped them front to rear because, again, there is greater wear on the left rear tire of his car.
Here's a look at that new Black & Decker VersaPack paint scheme on Mike Kofer's number 79. Black & Decker having brought their Strike Force, their VersaPack Strike Force van out here. They will also be with us at Kenley. This is a 2-race trial deal that they are doing with Mike, and hopefully if things work well, Mike will be able to secure sponsorship for this program for all of 1997. We'll see them with us full-time on that tour. Of course, Mike, the former place kicker for the San Francisco 49ers and some for the Indianapolis Colts as well, now trying his hand behind the wheel of a race car.
And the Black & Decker VersaPack people came out with a great display. They're selling product here. They've got the snake lights out, and a lot of race fans are getting a chance to get some great deals on the product sponsoring Kofer's car.
Unfortunately, they're going to need to break out the VersaPack tools to go to work on that car. Tony Raines having no problems. He's up front leading at the halfway point. There's a look at the VersaPack tools in use on Mike Kofer's car as they go to work, trying to get Mike back out onto the racetrack so he can earn some more time and laps and positions hopefully here. And Ray Skillman has been knocked out of this race due to the same incident that took Kofer out. Dave Burns is with him.
Well, Ralph, Ray's kind of forcing a smile here. He did have an awesome qualifying run today before he had problems. Ray, what finally put you out?
Well, the motor let go at the start-finish line. We were running pretty good. The boys tightened the car up a little bit. We had a little bit of a problem with it bottoming out. Junior Hanley and Joey, they talked to me on the radio, and Jerry, and they said, get the line a little higher. We moved the line up. The car started driving better. But the motor decided to blow up at a little past the start-finish line, and it dumped oil and antifreeze and stuff all over the racetrack. And I really apologize for the cars that I took out, but I know those guys are racers, and they know that we didn't bring a motor here to blow up and take them out, too.
Well, guys, he mentioned Junior Hanley. He was his unofficial crew chief this weekend working on the car. He's been working with him for a couple of weeks down here. Also, watch out for Harold Fair. He's down a cylinder as well. Brett Bell having motor problems back upstairs.
Of course, Junior Hanley, the legendary stock car driver out of Canada who has run with the ASA Tour some in the past, would like to return.
He was in that other car we were looking at in that old photo here at Salem in the 72. Yeah, he does. His options are open for next season.
Back to green with Tony Raines, the clean burn Pontiac out front.
Through the oil dry, that's a little puffs of smoke you see there. Just cleaning up the racetrack fluid put down by Skillman's car. And Ralph, anytime there's a one-groove racetrack, much less under direct sunlight in the afternoon, it causes a really slippery situation. Skillman and 8 other cars involved with our most recent caution.
Raines, Sensiba, Sawinski, and Hansen, top 4. Yale Conley feeling pretty racy. The Doc looking to the inside of Hansen there.
Conley is running 11th, 1 lap down, and here's what we've had thus far. Only Scott Hansen and Tony Raines at the point. Mike Miller has made his way forward. 10 cars on lead lap.
Those are the only 2 drivers that have led a lap. They have swapped that position 4 times. We should point out as well that Mike Getty has returned to the racetrack.
14 laps down.
14 laps down. It's a tough day for him. It'll be interesting to see now. This could be the break that Tony Raines needed as far as Hansen. Let's face it, was a dominant car, and it didn't look like anybody really had anything for him on fresh tires especially. Now, Sensiba and Sawinski battling for second. That might allow Tony Raines to step away a little bit while these two battle side by side here.
Kevin Sawinski did not pass a race car until the green flag dropped in this race. He did not pass a car in practice. They all pulled off for the racetrack ahead of him. The crew guys were kind of mad that he couldn't get the racing line from everybody, but 3 wins on the season in his rookie year. Obviously figuring out this racetrack in a heartbeat. Just past halfway, going around Sensiba now for the second position, excuse me.
For all intents and purposes, Kevin Sawinski is the 1996 Pat Shower Rookie of the Year Award winner. It's almost mathematically impossible for anybody to take that away from him. Battle for 7th, Ted Smokestad, the 32, the Super American 32. Steve Holtzhausen in the 5.
Smokestad running 7th, 8th is Holtzhausen, 9th is Bob Senneker on lead lap, and in 10th is Mike Miller. Running 11th, 1 lap down is Yale Conley. Jack Landis a lap down in 12th. 13th is Harold Fair. 2 laps down in 14th is Carol Muscatton. 15th is Tim Sauter at this point in time. Rick Beebe lost 3 laps after a green flag stop. He's in 16th. Also 3 laps down Tom Jones, J.D. Summers, and Kurt Huff. 4 laps down Bill Baird.
Whoa, big problems for Sensiba. But you see how loose he got coming off at turn number 4? That is allowing 3 or 4 cars to slide by him. That is going to cost Dave a lot of positions. Something you cannot afford to do at this racetrack because it's so difficult to get him back.
Lost second position, now losing valuable ground. He's now 7 cars have gone by him. Meanwhile, Tony Raines up front has maintained a 1.4 second advantage on what used to be a large margin. Kevin Sawinski running in second. Again, Sensiba was just in third.
He's got a problem. Sensiba is really struggling. He's dropping like a rock through the field here.
Mike Getty had a Panhard bar problem, forcing the rear end of his car to physically move around in the car. It may be a tire situation.
Look at that car dancing as he comes off at turn 4. There is something wrong in the rear end of this race car.
Bill Baird allows Sensiba down to the inside line, or does he? As Sensiba stays high, he's definitely off the pace, Ralph.
Big problems for Sensiba. We saw he was 5th in points. This is going to kill him. He was not mathematically out of it. He is pulling down. He is coming down pit road. So we will send Dave Perns over to Dave Sensiba's pit stall to find out what the story is with the number 4. He brings it to a stop. They're looking at the rear tires, maybe a flat rear tire. As we said, you can change 2 tires under yellow. Under green, you can do whatever you want. But there's something wrong in the rear. They're going to change both rear tires. Maybe just a cut tire from the incident over here. He might have picked up some debris in turns 1 and 2.
Good indication of how fast this racetrack is and how quickly it can go away. Look how loose. We use that term because he's not able to hold the car under control. Darn near 20-degree angle coming off of turn number 4. And we know how quickly the track closes up down the straightaway.
When you're turning left and you're looking out the passenger side window, it is not a good sign. Well, maybe I bet you he picked up a piece of debris from the incident over in turns 1 and 2, and he might have cut a tire down. Maybe the right rear.
Tony Raines running mean and clean in the clean burn Pontiac. No trouble thus far. He won the pole. Elected to start outside of row number 1. Here's a battle for 4th. It's Joe Knott and Tony Roper. They've been battling all race long. The babbling Ravy Ford of Joe Knott.
So Sensma now 2 laps down. That is really going to hurt his chances here today.
You mentioned Mike Getty already had problems. He's running in the 25th position. Gary St. Amant 12 laps off the pace, running in 24th. Let's get an update in the pits with Dave Burns.
Well, Brad Loney came in after that incident with a lot of body damage, but the thing they're taking all the time on down here is that broken shifter problem. That is really their main focus here, even though there's a lot of superficial damage on the car. They don't think they've hurt the suspension any.
Brad Loney coming into this race was 7th in points. He just moved there with the recent victory. His direct competitor in the point standings ahead of him is Kevin Swinski. Behind him is Joe Knott. And again, here's Joe Knott with an awesome run with Tony Roper having one of his better days.
Well, the racetrack where Joe Knott won was at Lancaster in Buffalo, a track that is not steeply banked like this one, but a very difficult track to negotiate that afternoon. Very slippery, really nasty conditions. And let's be blatantly honest, the track was a nasty racetrack that day, tough to navigate around. And Joey Knott kept his head and got a win. Being focused on what you're doing here in Salem is a key to running well. Joey could be looking at a nice top 3 position finish here.
Knott running down the backstretch ahead of Tony Roper here. Both these guys top 10 in points. Smokestad looking for a sponsor, desperately wants to get into the top 10 in points. His direct nemesis right ahead of him. Tony Roper's 10th, 11th is Smokestad in the overall points after 17 races.
That's a fight for 7th right there. 2 drivers with multiple wins on the tour this year. Seneker with 3, Miller with 2. Both those cars 3 years old. It shows you about the stability and the parity between the ASA cars, that you can have a 3-year-old chassis and pick up as many wins as these 2 drivers have. These cars are very durable, very reliable, and there are no changes made to them. I think when you see in some other sanctioning bodies these days where they're building new chassis every other month, real testament to the ASA rule book.
Both of these drivers, ironically, also designed their own front and rear clips on the race car. The car becomes a factory spec car between the firewalls. The front, where the front window starts and where the rear window ends, is a spec part of the race car. ASA mandates you must run that. These 2 drivers have gone to work. Seneker drawing out his front end geometry. This 18 car was put up on the computer-aided design system, and really, Mike Miller went to work with some engineers to design how he wanted the shock points, where he wanted the springs to sit, what angle. Very much a technology wonder under the hood of the 18 car, different than any other car out here.
That center section is where the driver sits, and we've got a problem coming off at turn number 4. And he is a 3 car of Yale Conley, who was very quick, although he was running a lap or 2 down. He was 1 lap down in 11. He was running fairly quick.
Had a good run. He got caught up in that accident on lap 131 and then made the front end damage as it is. He escapes this one unharmed, but Conley having a great run. The West Virginia driver really putting together a good run here. He is in search of a sponsor for 1997 and would do like nothing else than take his vascular surgeon duties during the week to the racetrack on the weekends and continue running ASA.
He's got a bit of damage to the nose. That might have happened in that earlier incident over in turn 1 and 2 when he tried to get through over there. Let's see what we have on the replay here with Yale Conley. Coming off of turn number 4.
Quickly the camera turns. It looks like he may have gotten down below the banking. Again, it's very important to stay high on the racetrack, well up to where that crossover gate is, where you see Bill Baird squirting away there. That's where you want to be up against the fence. Conley didn't look like he was that far up.
I think that was Mike Miller that was hard on the brakes and missed him on the high side as we go in the wall to watch. There goes Yale. And I think it might have been Mike Miller. So if Mike was hard on the brakes like that, he might have flat spotted his tires. Looks like a lot of the leaders are all tucking down to the bottom, getting ready to pit.
Lap 182 on the board. And we'll find out. This might be the last pit stop. Very critical for these teams to do a great job. Last week, Dave Sensima and Tony Raines' crew won the battle on pit lane. We'll see what happens this time down.
There is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit here on pit road, so all the drivers will keep an eye on the tachometer. Tony Raines pitted all the way around onto the backstretch.
Kind of like Phoenix International. The pit lane starts in turn 4, doesn't end until turn 2. Driver choosing pit stalls after qualifying, picking either end, it seems like, or an opening on pit lane to choose their pit stalls.
So Hansen already completing his stop, and Raines gets done in time and beats him out.
Tony Raines pitting all the way in turns 1 and 2. We'll lead that pack down, and again, Mike Eddy, 14 laps down, will lead the cars 1 lap down or more back down pit lane.
We'll take the opportunity then as well to make a quick pit stop on our own. We'll update you on the rest of the competitors when we come back to Salem, Indiana. All 9 of the lead lap cars have pitted. J.D. Summers having some trouble getting out of pit road. And it should put Tony Raines back up front when we go back to green. Now, Dave Sensmo took advantage of the yellow and took another trip down pit road. Dave, what was the story there with Sensmo?
Well, this was the first problem that put Sensima down. This right here is a hole in his right rear tire, and it was going down. That's why Dave was getting so loose on the track. I don't know if this is what it was, but this is stuck to it as well, some kind of big staple. Anyway, they put a right rear on it. They didn't like the stagger, so during that caution period, they came back in, put another set of right sides on, and they hope Dave is good to go the distance.
Well, he is 2 laps down. Got a lot of ground to make up.
Only 10 cars stand lead lap. Jack Landis at the tail end of the lead lap will race ahead of our race leader.
Now, Brandon Sperling, the first time he saw this racetrack at any speed was when he took the green flag. He's a car out front, but he is not the leader of the race. It is Tony Raines, who is deeper in the pack.
Bill Baird running 4 laps down. Last we checked, he was running in the 20th position. There's your race leader, Tony Raines, looking inside of Landis. Landis again running 10th, last car on lead lap, stayed out on that pit stop, stayed ahead of leaders for track position. We'll see if that will pay off, and Raines quickly disposes of him down the front stretch. I said it too soon, didn't I? Here he comes, passing him into turn number 1.
Jack did a great job at Lakeland the first race of the year. It looked like he was really going to be a strong contender for the Pat Shower Rookie of the Year award. Kind of trailed off after that. Landis is slipping in the point settings for the Rookie of the Year award. Let's check in with Dave Burns with more on Jack Landis.
We know, guys, Todd Forbes used to run very fast here in the Noah Yoder Ford Thunderbird. So I asked Noah, how did Jack get so fast so quick in that car? They said, we don't know. He just sort of took to it. And taking to running inches off of that turn 3 and 4 wall, guys, that's really something.
Well, it is, but we should also remember that Jack Landis ran very well at I-70, which is the other extremely high-banked racetrack on this tour. And they put in the Todd Forbes setup, and Jack and Todd communicated a little bit, and Jack was a good contender there as well. So I'm sure that helped him quite a bit getting ready for this one.
The Edgerton, Ohio driver in his first season here in the ASA has some super late model experience. He's run an I-70 and 300 lap contest, run on the ARTCO sanctioning banner, so he's got some laps and some lengthy races, but I don't think he was prepared here for Salem, at least at this point in the race. He might be feeling some pain. I saw some drivers last week at Toledo complain of some aching and some cramping because of the high banking. We'll have to see how the drivers can hold up here at Salem.
Here's Sawinski trying to deal with Landis, and Raines trying to deal with Sperling.
Tony Raines with like nothing else to get a clean racetrack and a very tight move there. Hansen almost got him going into turn number 1, but Raines able to thread the needle and hang on to the lead.
So obviously, Hansen battling back through all the difficulties, challenging Raines.
I'm glad I was wrong when I said he might have towed out the right front in that 53 car. It was just body damage at this point. He wouldn't be running this strong at all if there was any problems with that right front wheel.
Dave Anspaugh gets a good look at the fight up front as he goes down another lap. Tony Raines has his hands full with Scott Hansen, and Hansen working Raines good.
Believe it or not, Hansen's running his lane.
Oh, he's going to get him here. He's going to get him. To the bottom goes Hansen. And Scott Hansen has taken the lead once again.
6 different lead change. These 2 drivers, the only 2 sharing the point.
So Scott Hansen back out front at the Midwest 300 in Salem, Indiana, as we continue live coverage of the ASA Tour on TNN. We are back to Salem, Indiana, where we have had more racing up front for the lead. You see Rick Benjamin and the gang at Race Day. We're bringing you all the highlights of our ASA Midwest 300 tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Race Day. And look what has happened up front. Tony Raines back out front of Scott Hansen, and here's how it happened. And Bill Baird was a big player in this.
Hansen went low going into turn number 3. Baird stayed high. Raines went high. Hansen unable to get on the gas pedal. You see, he got a little sideways there. Lost it in a heartbeat because Raines was on the gas since the middle of the turn out.
That is twice today that we've seen Tony make that pass on the high side of the racetrack coming through turn 4. That is a key area. Now Hansen's going to try it on the outside, and Baird once again becomes a player in this deal. Tony was trying to get past Baird, but remember, you got to complete the pass by the time you get to 3. It didn't open up for Tony like he had hoped. Tony goes back to 2nd.
Baird 4 laps down, trying to stay ahead of the leaders here. Hansen had some damage on the right front from an early race caution, lap 131, where he was part of an 8-car pileup. Raines staying clear and free of damage. Other point contenders, Bob Seneker, staying on lead lap, running in the top 10, as has Hansen and Raines. Gary Santamon, unfortunately, a dozen laps down, involved in that altercation. Matter of fact, the damage on Hansen's right front came from Santamon when he spun.
And Hansen got Baird by the time he got to 3 that time, which is what he'd been trying to do. Now, watch as Hansen will pull away while Tony still has to deal with Baird, and Tony won't be able to do anything with him until he gets to 3. He's got to try it here. Can he get him? Brett Bell's going to be a slower car, could come into play, and it does. Meanwhile, a battle for 3rd, and look at this. Holtzhausen and Miller going at it. Holtzhausen on the bottom, takes a position.
That's the lowest we've seen a pass made in turn number 4. He wasn't next to him, door handle to door handle. He was a full group below. There's a way to get around in turn 4, and Holtzhausen find it well on the bottom.
And look how Tony Raines just has to wait to get another shot down the backstretch. How are things with the 53 car, Dave?
Well, I've been checking around, talking to the crew. They tell me that Scott radioed in. He said, guys, do not change a thing on this car. It is the best one I've had all year.
We should point out that J.D. Summers is done. He never did get the 22 back out on the racetrack. The hood is up on that car. And Hansen continues to dominate here. Tony trying to get past Baird again.
Dennis Latman ahead of this duo. Latman of the Barricade Flasher Aero Wheels Chevy.
Oh, they come side by side off the turn, and Baird just, Tony can't do anything with it. Baird right now is in 20th position. And Raines, you know Tony has got to be getting frustrated because he needs to get around Baird if he wants any shot at Hansen. And Baird is not helping him out.
Hansen able to run free and clear, really, Ralph, but now with Raines having to fight a lap car. Behind him is Rick Beebe, who's running fast, but he's 3 laps down.
And I got to wonder why the spotters aren't talking upstairs, or if Bill's being a little stubborn. I mean, he is 4 laps down. He's running in 20th. Not a good way to make friends. You can be sure Tony won't forget this.
Raines going right up to the wall. Bill Baird staying ahead of the 2nd place runner here.
I mean, if Bill was trying to stay on the lead lap, then by all means he has the opportunity and should be able to stay there. But when you're 4 laps down, I would think maybe you might let him by.
Courtesy does have a long-lasting effect. Race drivers are like elephants, man. They do not forget.
And behind them is this fight with Tony Roper and Ted Smokestad for 8th. Roper holding on to the spot in the black and yellow, number 10.
These guys have been hanging on the latter half of the top 10 all race long, stay on lead lap, which is quite a feat today considering how strong Raines and Hansen have been. And now Tony Raines can look forward, passing the 26 car of Baird finally.
And Sperling.
Caught a glimpse of Rick Beebe again. He was running extremely well up to 6th position. Then he had a problem. He came down pit lane, lost 3 laps under green there in the yellow 23, the designated hitter Chevrolet.
Looks like Harold Fair's motor has expired on the backstretch. He's trying to coast around. There's the CarQuest AC-Delco number 81. See if he can make it all the way around to pit road. Otherwise, we might see a yellow come out here. Looks like he is just coasting fast enough that he'll make it.
Harold Fair running a backup car this weekend. He still is recovering and repairing damage from Cedar Rapids, where he and Mike Eddy crashed late in the event. This car has the Beast motor in it, but fortunately the Beast might have given up the fight here on the high banks of Salem.
Got his first ever ASA win right here at Salem. Dave Anspaugh on pit road as well now.
We talked a lot about Brad Loney in his first win last week. He said it's finally sinking in. I talked to Harold Fair about his first win here back in 1988. On the way out of here is a 2-lane road. Harold's driving the rig, just kind of relaxing, taking it all in. Looks down at the speedometer, he's going 25 miles an hour on a 55-mile-an-hour road. That's his way of letting it all sink in. He had no idea kind of where he was at the time.
Tony Raines, who absolutely loves M&Ms. Won't eat any M&Ms, especially any green ones, before the race. Waits until after the race, and when he's done, he treats himself to a 2-pound bag. Something he says he can absolutely inhale. Dave Burns?
We'll see what crew chief Howie Leto has to say about that. I talked to Howie about getting around the 26 car. He said they tried to establish communications with their spotters, but by the time they got there, they had finally gotten around Bill. Now, Tony hasn't said much to Howie since they changed the last set of tires, but before that, he was a little bit loose, so they're just mildly concerned in the 87 pit. They say they want to make one more stop before this thing is over.
Howie Leto is nicknamed the Genius. He has led 4 people to the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year award, including Pat Schauer, who the award is named after, but he has never won an ASA championship. Will he be able to get it with Tony Raines this year? We'll just have to wait and find out. Tony Raines continues to chase Scott Hansen. Will Howie be a championship-winning crew chief? Well, the points chase is taking another hit. Bob Seneker and Dave Sensible involved in a wreck here on the front straightaway just seconds ago. Bob climbs out of the blue 84. He is okay. Let's take a look at it coming on the front straightaway.
Behind Bob Seneker is the 4-car of Dave Svensson, coming off of turn number 4. Heavy contact. Svensson then plows to the inside wall. Good job saving it by the 55 of Sauter, the 32 of Smokestead. We see heavy damage there. As it may have been Seneker thinking he was clear of the 4-car coming off of turn 4, or they just got together. So the car sounds like going from 120 to a dead stop sideways down the front stretch.
That is an expensive sound as they grind to a halt along the front straightaway wall. Bob is out. That car looks too heavily damaged to continue here today. Dave Burns is in Scott Hansen's pit, or he's with Dave Sensible, we're told now. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, yeah, we caught up with Dave, and he's limping a little bit. What'd you hit, man?
Bob got a little loose, and we were on the outside of him. Nothing we could do. They're a little sore. Got my leg a little bit. We're all right.
You're having a great run out there. Pretty good track for you here.
The car really working good. We had a flat tire. I figured we could stay up with the leaders, maybe get our laps back, because we had a good car.
Okay, Dave is okay. He is standing, limping a little bit. Just hurt himself a bit on that. Scott Hansen was in and out of the pits in a flash.
Raines dove down pit road as well.
Raines beat him out again. It's Raines, Hansen, Knott coming out of the pits. Mike Miller. These are all lead lap cars. They get first choice down pit lane as soon as the pit lane is clear. That's how they came out.
All the cars coming out of the pits that went in there. So let's keep Baird. Smokestead, we'll take one more time out while we have the opportunity. As we continue to work our way through the Midwest 300 here in Salem. We are back to Salem, Indiana, the Midwest 300. There's a look at Bob Seneker's torn up number 84 and the torn up number 4 of Dave Sensible.
During this extended caution, we found out that there's been some communication going on with some of the drivers.
Racing Electronics is the official communications equipment supplier to the American Speed Association. They're giving away a Unitive Bearcat scanner along with a 1-year Racers Frequency membership on each ASA telecast on TNN. To enter this drawing, send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 561244, Charlotte, North Carolina 28256. Now this week's winner is John Franco from Weidman, Michigan. Congratulations, John. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics.
During this lengthy caution, I mentioned communication is such a great part of it. Tony Raines said he feels pretty good. Scott Hansen said the car is towed in just a little bit.
Let's check in with Dave Burns and Bob Seneker.
Well, Bob is out of his car now, and looked like a pretty good lick out there. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, it didn't hurt me at all. I didn't hit that hard. The track's just so tough to pass on. When anybody makes a little mistake, there's no room for error. That's all. I don't really know what happened there. I thought I was clean running my own race, and suddenly I'm tagged in the right rear. In the fence I go. And we couldn't get loose. I've been rubbing since somewhere in the third or fourth turn there. Couldn't break free of them, and finally it really nailed the wall there. That's racing at Winchester. It's like Winchester. That's racing at Salem. It's a tough place, really tough. We'll go on the next week.
Okay, Bob's okay, and mistakes made out there. Couldn't really tell whether it was him referring to Dave or himself, but guys, it sounds like they were together for a long time before they actually spun.
Sensible was a lap down at least because he did come in under green flag to make a pit stop. Sensible mentioned Winchester. ASA used to run Winchester and Salem in the same season. Gary St. Amant admitted during the drivers' meeting he's run 7 in the first 7 races at both those racetracks. He crashed the first 6 times, so very difficult to stay clean on these high banks.
Well, we finally got a new leader, don't we?
Steve Holzhausen was 9th in the final car out of pit lane, the last caution under green flag conditions. He went from 9th to 3rd behind only Raines and Hansen. He becomes our 3rd race leader. He stayed out on the racetrack. Talk about a perfect situation. He thinks his car is set. These guys came in and made a stop.
There is your battle for 3rd. That is Hansen trying to fend off Joe Knott, Mike Miller, and the rest. There comes Tony Raines after Holzhausen. Coming off at turn number 4. Couldn't get him there. He'll set him up coming off at 2. Try to get him by the time he gets to turn 3. He's alongside, and he completes the pass. So the Pontiac of Tony Raines goes back into the lead in front of the Ford of Holzhausen and the Chevy of Scott Hansen.
Tony Raines comes into this racetrack, sets a new track record, 5 points for starting from the pole position. 5 points for leading lap. He's going after most laps led, which is an additional 5 points. And as tight as this battle is, Hansen wants that dubious honor of leading the most laps, but it's here Raines today, and Raines, I think, to this point, has led more of the event.
On that track record-breaking 16-second qualifying run, Tony said he came ripping down the backstretch here, and he got to the point where he would normally lift right around in there, and he just stayed in it and counted 1, 2, okay, now lift. And he lifted right there and got right back in the throttle. It's one of those frightening laps he's ever taken in an ASA car, but it got in the pole. His first ever ASA pole. Hard to believe it took him this long to get a pole, as strong as he has run over the years.
Full time since 1991.
Now, the closest Howie Leto has ever gotten to winning the ASA championship was 1993 with Scott Hansen, but they had trouble in the season finale at Jennerstown, and the the touring champ that year ended up being Johnny Benson Jr., who's now on his way to winning the Rookie of the Year award of the NASCAR Winston Cup Tour this year.
We mentioned so much about the rookie chase here. Holzhausen, the previous Pat Charlevoix Rookie of the Year, started 16th again. Marched up into the top 10. He stayed there, took a lot of track position. He might have used up a little more tire than he thought, chasing down Hansen and Raines. He stayed out on the racetrack. Now he's paying the price, running back in 5th.
There's Sawinski, that number 1, and look at that fight that's going on between Knott and Mike Miller as well. There it is right there. That's the fight for 3rd.
Joe Knott a little bit of a squiggle there off of turn number 4, trying to keep control of that Ford as the Pontiac of Miller breathing down the back pipes.
Joe Knott driving a backup car after trashing his primary car last week at Toledo.
Hard wreck with Joe Knott. He was a lap down or so, and at that time Steve Holzhausen was the leader. Holzhausen had the steering knocked out 20 laps into the event. Got next to Knott, couldn't hold it down. They got together. Holzhausen lost the lead, and they eventually lost the race to the race winner Brad Loney.
Mike can't seem to get a good run coming off turn 2, or at least not a good enough run off of 2 to do anything with Joe Knott.
Mike Miller having motor problems a week ago, finishing 27th. That halted a great effort as he was really on a charge to the front. He had a 20th place finish at Hawkeye Downs, but his season, when it's going good, has gone extremely well. A first place at Minnesota State Fair, a second one of the year, followed by a fourth at Kaukauna, and then a couple more demons. So I think that up in the points, we've seen Bob Seneca get bit today, Dave Sensiva, Gary St. Amant running a dozen laps down, all suffering problems as those top 5 runners experienced problems. Brad Loney got involved in a wreck. He's now finally back on the racetrack, many laps down. I'd say more than 30 circuits down here.
Don't forget, next weekend, the ASA Tour travels on to Jennerstown, Pennsylvania for the next to last round, a track that used to be the traditional season-ending date. Now is the next to last race on the schedule. We will wrap things up early part of November at Kenly, North Carolina. It's the new Southern National Speedway, just outside of Raleigh, Durham. 2 rounds left to go after today.
And at this point in the season, it's very important to note that into that finale, the only ASA driver that's run a race at that track is Scott Hansen earlier this season in the late model special.
Let's check in with Dave Burns on Steve Holtzhausen.
Well, guys, earlier Steve had gone from 9th to 3rd, as Jim mentioned, and it was because of a rear tire change that they did. Steve really likes it when they do that and keep the sagger the same in the back. Unfortunately, they stuck to what was an original game plan and kept themselves on the track during that last caution. They were hoping that more lap cars would stay on the track than did. Unfortunately, as you saw, the leaders overcame them real quick. Now they're hoping that Steve will equalize with Hansen and Rains and work his way back up to the front.
You see the graphic there in Holtzhausen. Remember, he didn't even run the full season. The
4 top 5 finishes in 8 races this year. Not bad for a part-timer, huh?
No. Steve, a guy who loves to go ice fishing. I still don't understand that.
He goes fishing any day of the week, any time of the year. He grows a beard in the winter. You see him at the season-ending banquet every year. Like, who's this guy? Well, it's Steve Holtzhausen with a beard. Didn't recognize you. Definitely an outdoorsman. Loves to hunt and fish in the La Crosse, Wisconsin area. Worked at a dealership literally in the front yard of the La Crosse Speedway, where American Speed Association visited earlier this year, back in July.
There are Joe Knott and Mike Miller battling it out, running for 3rd. Holtzhausen back in 5th. Rains continues to lead over Hansen at this point. This fight right here is by far the best one on the racetrack at this point. Rains has almost about a half a straightaway lead over Hansen, and this fight is going on, maybe 100 yards or so behind Hansen.
Report from Hansen's crew, the car's a little towed in, so the tires are sort of pointed towards each other. We talked about Gary St. Amant with a tow out of only 3/4 of an inch, but that means a lot on these banks and at these speeds. Hansen's car, if it's towed in a little bit, the tires are facing each other, not able to free the car up entirely. Hansen's going to be battling that wheel. I wouldn't doubt if he has some cramping or maybe some white knuckling going on this racetrack.
Here's Tony Rains.
Trouble off of turn 4.
We got problem off of turn 4. It is Bill Baird.
It's like a single car spin here on the front stretch. A lot of white smoke, crowd rose to their feet, and luckily the rest of the crew stayed high.
That brings out our 5th yellow of the day. We'll check with our, Barrett has big problems. That car not wanting to go straight. Now he's got it going. We'll have to see if they take advantage of this, maybe make one more pit stop.
Holtzhausen, you think, will be coming in?
Steve, you would think would, yeah, but I wonder if the rest of the leaders will.
Boy, this late in the race, 39 circuits remaining. 2 schools of thought. In 1994 here, Mike Eddy and Jay Sauter changed right sides and stayed out of the racetrack. Bob Seneca changed rights, then lefts, could not catch him at the end of the race. Mike Eddy won. Seneca finished 3rd.
And there's the replay. You see Aaron losing it, sliding right towards the start-finish line. And another look at it.
This is after he spun now, trying to get the car back going. And a little bit hard on the gas, and a lot of debris and a lot of dust is blown down to the inside of the racetrack, and Bill finds the fence on the inside.
So Bill Barron has the car going once again. And we will take an opportunity to step out once more here as we get close to the finale. Some 38 laps remaining. Midwest 300 live on TNN from Salem. 96 AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodrich service dealer. We want your business. By Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. And by Pep Boys, 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too, everything but gas. We are back. Some of the sun-drenched crowd enjoying it here at Salem Speedway. It is almost into the middle of October, and people still wearing shorts up here in the southern part of central Indiana. 75, 80 degrees out there in the grandstands today. Driver said at the high speeds that they're running though around the racetrack, it's not going to be warm enough to get real hot inside the car. The air circulates nice at those speeds inside the car. Should keep it pretty cool.
There's been some races at this racetrack, Ralph, where they've been extremely warm, and there's not a lot of air getting in on a hot day. Larry Moore, I recall, after finishing third 3 seasons ago, had to be literally physically pulled out of the car and given oxygen, so it can really take a lot out of a driver on a hot day.
Well, they're going to do a few more laps under yellow, so we'll take an opportunity to complete some more business so we can bring you as many green flag laps here at the finish of the Midwest 300. Tony Raines has taken one step closer to winning his first ever AC-Delco Challenge Series title. As you look at the battle for second, Scott Hansen has brought the number 53 down pit road, and they are working on the engine bay. He is going laps down, and Raines starts to pull away from this battle. Let's go down to Hansen's pit and find out the story.
Guys, they still don't know what the problem is in Scott Hansen's Monte Carlo. He's undoing the belts now. They're going to call it a day. They were checking the temperature on all the different headers to see if one was hotter than another, which would indicate a cylinder was down, but the motor was just vibrating like crazy. Scott, do you know what the problem is?
Well, last week we said the engine blew up and it didn't, so we owe him an apology for there, but this week it did.
Okay, motor is obviously gone in Scott Hansen's car.
It was electrical, what they sourced it to last week. They changed everything literally under the hood. They changed all the ignition, all the wiring, and the motor from a week ago to make sure they wouldn't have a problem. Unfortunately, the power plant let go today.
Tony Raines, I mean, he is right up on the wall as he is pulling up a half a straightaway lead over this tremendous fight for second place between two of the youngest and hardest charging drivers on the tour. Pat Shower Rookie of the Year contender and probable winner in 96, Kevin Sawinski in the number 1, and Joe Nutt, as you look back from Raines in that Valvoline Raby number 48, who currently runs in second. Now these two started right alongside of each other in row number 3. Joe out-qualified Sawinski. Joe loves to spend most of his time when he can on rollerblades in the Grand Haven, Michigan area. Originally out of Ohio, now living over in Grand Haven on Lake Michigan. Enjoying life as a young up-and-coming race car driver. Having a good time. And a great race. There's Raines, and we'll look back, and there is Knott Sawinski. Joe Knott, remember, in a backup car after trashing his primary at Toledo, and Sawinski in his one of 4 or 5 that comes out of the Scott Lefevre Racing Stables up in Minnesota.
Very strong effort by Sawinski. We see Mike Miller climbing back into it, and Holtzhausen did pit as well as Hansen and the 18 of Mike Miller that last time by. Those guys with fresher tires have seriously caught up and will make a challenge here. The 18 and the 5 have fresh right side tires.
Look at Holtzhausen trying to get to the inside of Miller. He's going to have nowhere to drift up to, though. Can he hold on the bottom and take the spot? No. So it looks like a 4-race battle for second. And while these guys are running this hard battling for second, Tony Raines continues to pull away. We have some less than 30 laps remaining here in the Midwest 300.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth here. A great battle. It's a yawner up front. Raines dominating at this point in the race, but man, Sawinski settling in, and I'm wondering if he wants to stay with Knott, try to hold his line and keep those other 2 guys behind him. Again, they came out of the pits. Ooh, Steve Holtzhausen nearly getting sideways there. Let's see if he can hang on here.
Well, as this one continues to wind down, if you want to make a move, you're going to have to do it soon. Holtzhausen has lost a little ground to these guys. About half a car length.
This battle That's 3 seconds back from our race leader, Tony Raines, in the Cleanburn Pontiac. Holzhausen was to the inside and outside of the 18 of Mike Miller. Car caught Pontiac now challenging the inside of Sawinski.
Here he comes. Can he get him? No, not by the time they get to turn 3. And there's Raines, and you'll get a look back. There's Joe Knott holding on to second, and now he starts to pull away from the pack behind him.
Tires becoming a factor here. The 1 car of Sawinski and the 48 of Joe Knott on older tires. You'd think with as old as this pavement is, these guys would eat it up. The 5 and the 18, that is. They have fresher right side tires, and Holzhausen regathered in a hurry, didn't he?
Holzhausen is able to now take over 4th position. As you see, just 15 laps to go.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth again into turn number 1. No change. Holzhausen a lap and a half ago, getting to the inside of Mike Miller.
Here they come. Traffic will come definitely into play for this pack, as it will hold them up. The problem is, even if you think you're on a good run, if traffic is in the way, you're going to have to back out and reset it up. Sometimes it can take 2, maybe 3 laps to get back in position where you can get that run down the backstretch. Here comes Holzhausen again on Sawinski. We have talked all season about how Holzhausen can be a spoiler for some of the title contenders. Can't do anything with Sawinski there. Kevin not really in the points chase, but he could lose some points here today and maybe drop a position or 2 in the top 10.
He's 6th in points coming in. Joe Knott is down in 8th, and boy, would they like to have a good run here again. Holzhausen going for his 5th top 5 finish in 9 races.
There's that gap again. Now, a guy like Sawinski is really going to make up some ground in the points chase. Sense about going out early. He was 5th. We might see Kevin move into the top 5 in points. What a great rookie season.
Holzhausen steered it left and got on the gas pedal off of turn number 2. He's going after 3rd.
He's got it, too. Holzhausen takes over 3rd. Joey Knott doing a great job holding on to 2nd. And Miller's going to have to go to work here in a hurry if he wants to get a spot away from Sawinski as well. 10 laps remaining here in the Midwest 300. The Super American Pontiac of Ted Smokestack coming to a slow crawl as this one closes in on completion.
Smokestack was running in the top 10. What a hard break for that Minnesota-based team. Again, actively seeking sponsorship. Close to the end of this one, and we're not going to count our chickens yet, but Raines taking the lead as he is, leading the most laps, getting the advantage. First time ever leading the points coming into the race, sits on the pole. Almost a perfect race here this afternoon for Raines.
Doing everything he can, scoring all the points possible is Tony Raines, which is how you win a championship. But there are 2 races remaining. Even if Raines wins here today, the championship is far from decided.
It is now a 3.6 second difference. Leader Tony Raines. Back to 2nd place, Joe Knott.
The fight on the racetrack is for 2nd place between Joe Knott, that red Valvoline Raby Ford number 48, and the 5 car of Holzhausen, the Red Baron piece of Myers back entry. That's the fight for 2nd, and here's the fight for 4th.
Holzhausen way to the inside in turn number 2.
Mike Miller trying to get around Kevin Sawinski as we watch the fight for 4th position. Miller to the bottom side. Can't get him by the time they get to 1. Has to back off because of Brett Bell on the bottom. Trying to set him up is Steve Holzhausen as they go into 3. He's on the bottom, but not with the high preferred line. Keeps the gas pedal to the floor and holds on. Just 3 laps to go.
Holzhausen wants 2nd now. Skims the back bumper of Knott this time.
After taking a year off of racing from Salem due to the track being closed, the AC-Delco Challenge Series cars have returned to this wonderful high-banked half mile, and what a show we've got here at the finish. Tony Raines pulling away from this fight, and Holzhausen's on the outside, and he's got him this time. He had tried the inside enough times. He set him up, kept working that bottom groove, and finally gets a pass on the outside as we are on the white flag lap. Tony Raines with 1 win already in 96, the points leader. Tony and crew chief Howie Leno searching for their first ever AC-Delco Challenge Series championship will win the Midwest 300 and will lengthen their points lead. Holzhausen will hold on for second. Then it is Joey Knott, Sawinski, and Mike Miller rounding out the top 5 at the conclusion of the Midwest 300 American Speed Association contest here at Salem, Indiana. What a great way to rechristen this track with the AC-Delco Challenge Series teams. Stay with us. We'll come back and talk to our winner, Tony Raines, after this. This is not the only thing flying high here at the Salem Speedway. Midwest 300 has come to a conclusion, and points leader Tony Raines has picked up his second 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series victory. Let's go down to victory lane, and Dave Burns with our winner.
You know, they say it's okay to brag if you can back it up, and I think today, Tony Raines, you did a good job of that. You sat on the pole, you won the race. Great day.
I'll tell you, I got to thank my sponsors, Cleanbird and Pontiac and AFCO and Redline Oil. They always help us out and make it possible for us to get here. My crew did an awesome job, got me out first at every stop, and you know, that last 60, 70 laps was the easiest part of the race. You know, that first 150 was the toughest, but Scott had a really strong car today. I don't know if we had something for him. He had a little trouble, but we were up to giving him a run there at the end, and we came out with a pretty good win here today.
Tony, how did the new guys do here today? There was a lot of traffic out there. How'd they do?
Most of them weren't too bad. Some of them were a little slow moving over. You know, we'd catch them at a pretty good clip, and you know, it was a couple times we got a little close, but for the most part, everybody did a good job.
How do you feel going into the last 2?
Well, we still got 2 more to go. You know, this is going to pad it a little bit, but we got to do this again twice more, and we'll be in good shape.
Okay, Tony doesn't want to, as you say, count his chickens yet, but I think they're getting kind of ripe, guys.
Tony Raines, crew chief Howie Leto, and tire changer Gary Donegan involved with this team, perhaps a championship. They're also involved with a driver by the name of Pat Schauer. 1981 lost his life in Winchester Speedway this weekend, so a very, very sweet victory. Gary pulled me aside before the race, said, make sure you say hi to Mary, Danny, Ryan, and Mike. They're thinking about you this weekend, and what better way to salute you guys with the victory here today.
Pat's boys always make it to the AC-Delco banquet at the end of the year to present the trophy to the Rookie of the Year in honor of their dad, true legend in the ASA world. We will be back to Salem. Find out more about the Midwest 300 when we come back as you look at the top 10. We're back to the Midwest 300. The fans enjoying the infield, and pretty soon they'll be opening the gates and letting them all down into the pit road area to meet the drivers and take a look at these ASA cars up close. Let's check in with another driver up close, Dave Burns, with our second place man, Steve Holzhausen.
Well, Steve, you gave it a great run there at the end. He raced pretty hard with Joe.
Yeah, Joe had a quick car there, but I raced him clean, and he gave me a lap at the end there. He was kind of switching up on me to see if I had my act together, and he had a good run. You know, I got to hand it to him. The Myers Food Chain Ford Thunderbird ran good today, and our pit stops were all right. Our strategy was a little off, but, you know, the car worked good. We didn't have a good starting position, but it kicked tail, you know. I'd like to say hi to my wife and kids at home. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, Steve's coming home. And by the way, guys, that strategy, even though it didn't work out at the time, what a team. They bounced back, made a change, and put Steve back up onto the winner's podium.
Good run by Steve.
Believe it or not, Steve's pretty excited.
Yeah. That is about as exciting as he gets. Well, our winning move does not go to Tony Raines, but it does go to a driver very deserving. Kevin Sawinski had never been to the Salem Speedway before, had not spent a lot of time at a high-banked racetrack, and he worked hard today in tuning in this driver to finish very strongly here at the Salem Speedway for his first time ever here. We are going to give our winning move for a fine effort in coming to grips with a very difficult racetrack to Kevin Sawinski.
Nice gift for his girlfriend. Tracy Shaversky turned 26 today, so another top 5 on a track that he hates.
And there's a look at the Victory Lane celebrations continuing here at Salem with our race winner, Tony Raines, Howie Leto, and the entire crew. Stay with us, we're not done yet. So look at the water tower here in Salem, and then when you get done racing here at the track, you can go right off the backstretch, play 18 holes of golf, or right off at turns 1 and 2 and jump in your own private plane like a lot of these drivers will and head home. Of course, we're going to hit the highway and head for the airport back in Louisville, see if we can get there. Let's check in with Dave Burns with Joe Knott.
Well, you know, I just walked all the way around Joe's car, and there's not a mark on it. Joe, how'd you keep that thing clean all day out there?
Well, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that. We've had some bad races here lately, Actually, we got to thinking we haven't had a good race since we won back in Buffalo, and the crew really deserves this. They gave me 110%. I gave 110% back. Nothing was given to us today. We earned everything, and I love this place, man. Salem Speedway. As a matter of fact, I was talking with my dad here earlier, and my grandfather had us midget here in the first race at this track, and just be able to run good here. And I know my grandfather Alan Ott is up in the sky watching, and he's happy for me.
Okay, guys, there's a Knott family tradition at Salem Speedway. Continues today. Joe finishes third.
And he did it in a backup car. Nice job, Joe. And here's your full field rundown.
That's Tony and his mom right there. Mr. Raines.
Top 10 right there. See Sawinski, Miller, Roper, Landis, Sauter, Beebe, Muscott rounding out the top 10.
Yale Conley survived. He had a great run today, finished 11th, ran there most of the race today. Tom Jones got down a couple laps early, finished 13th.
Kurt Huff in his first ever ASA appearance gets a 15th. Nice job.
Gary St. Amant, by finishing 18th, will drop to second in point. He'll maintain second in points with the problems with Hansen.
Hansen finishes 20th. That'll hurt him in the point standings. He will be in third in the points, but it will hurt him point total wise. Mike Gopher debuting the new Black & Decker VersaPack colors gets caught up in a crash. He is 29th. Mike Eddy, who introduced me to pickled bologna this weekend. Have you ever had that?
No.
Scary.
Yeah, it is.
Not bad, though, I must admit. He comes home in 22nd after having to go get a backup car after crashing in practice.
Seneca and Sensible right there as well. Two guys running 4th and 5th in points are hurt by that run.
And rounding out the field is Aaron Huff. His brother is going to give him a lot of grief because he was in his first ever ASA race and he beat his brother by some 16 positions.
Quick point update. It is Tony Raines at the point lead by 120 markers unofficially over Gary St. Amant. Third is Scott Hansen. Fourth is Bob Seneca. 5th in points now is Kevin Sawinski. 6th is Dave Sensiba.
Well, don't forget there is more ASA racing yet to go this season. The next stop is Jennerstown. That is not on TNN. The next live TNN race will be, of course, the season finale. The North Carolina 300 from the new, beautiful Southern National Speedway in Kenly, North Carolina. Make sure you tune in on November 17th, 1 p.m. live Eastern time as we crown the 1996 AC-Delco Challenge Series champion live on TNN. Don't forget my good buddy Steve Evans coming up next with NHRA Today right here on TNN. And of course, Realtree Outdoors will follow that. Well, it was another great ASA race, and we want to thank all the folks here at Salem for putting together an absolutely beautiful racetrack. Now the new broadcasting booth and everything here is just great. Can't wait to come back to South Central Indiana. For David Burns, my pal Jim Trento always straps in alongside me, and all the gang down there in the truck that does such a tremendous job of bringing you live ASA coverage, I'm Ralph Shaheen. So long from Salem.